Welcome back to Dateline on ID. I'm Lester Holt. Returning to mystery on Blood Mountain, the Florida jury had reached a verdict in the case against Gary Hilton. Here again is Dennis Murphy.
The trial of Gary Hilton for the murder of Cheryl Dunlap had taken 7 days. The 6-man, 6-woman jury needed less than 3.5 hours to reach its verdict on multiple counts.
State of Florida versus Gary Michael Hilton, we the jury find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment. The defendant Gary Hilton is guilty of first-degree murder. Count 2 of the indictment.
Gary Hilton was found guilty of the first-degree murder of Cheryl Dunlap. Guilty on all counts except car theft. The same jurors would soon reconvene to decide if Hilton would die by lethal injection. He'd dodged death in Georgia, and now it was time to see if he could do it again.
This man, Mr. Hilton.
Assistant State's Attorney Georgia Kappelman got the initial conviction of Hilton.
What are the words you'd use to describe this guy?
He's a psychopath, and there's crazy sick and there's crazy mean. He's just crazy mean. He's intelligent. He's a college graduate. He was a member of our armed forces. He's probably smarter than everybody sitting in this room.
There were different rules in the penalty phase. Unlike in the trial, prosecutors were now able to disclose to jurors that Hilton murdered Meredith Emerson on Blood Mountain. And State's Attorney Willie Meggs did just that, calling to the stand Georgia Bureau of Investigation agents who'd worked on the Emerson case.
You indicated that Miss Emerson's body was nude. Did Gary Michael Hilton tell you why it was nude?
He did. He basically stated that he had removed the head and stripped the clothing for forensic purposes.
Meggs was able to introduce portions of those chilling interviews that Hilton gave the authorities in Georgia.
Once you've taken someone, you're either going to kill them or you're going to get caught. It's as simple as that.
Penalty phase was one of the more interesting parts of the trial. That's where you started getting this information about Emerson. Because
It's the first time the Georgia information was allowed into the...
Correct. So that is when you really start seeing the jurors taking in the enormity. Then you really see the impact of all this coming through.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Robert Friedman was the defense's lead attorney in the penalty phase. His strategy was to present Hilton as so mentally damaged as to be incapable of responsibility for his actions. Friedman began with a PET scan expert who testified about traumatic brain damage Hilton had suffered as a 10-year-old when a Murphy bed accidentally fell on him and nearly scalped him.
He was taken to St. Joseph Hospital in Tampa and given 200 stitches. And this is an example of a Murphy bed.
And jurors, that's not all, the defense's expert continued. Hilton was abused as a child, and he lashed out as a teenager. A defense neuropsychologist tested Hilton, who it turns out is as bright as he thinks he is.
On the Wechsler-Dulles intelligence scale, he scored an overall verbal IQ of 120, which puts him in the upper 10% or so of the population.
Another psychiatrist diagnosed him with schizoaffective and antisocial personality disorder, compounded by an old-fashioned Oedipal complex.
So we call it an unresolved Oedipal complex, and a child can grow up with this emptiness inside of them.
To top it off, the defense continued, Hilton was self-medicating with prescription drugs.
Ritalin and Effexor will basically push you over that line.
The defense then treated jurors to Gary Hilton, This Is Your Life, a saga of abuse, neglect, and injury. It included an audio tape of Hilton's late mother talking about how, as a teenager, Hilton had wounded his stepfather.
And he said, shoot me, go ahead, shoot me. I dare you to shoot me. Gary shot him.
In the legs or in
the stomach, the lower part of the stomach.
A junior high girlfriend testified that Gary wasn't a bad guy back in the day.
He was funny and outgoing and smart.
The defense rests.
Once the defense rested, Willie Meggs called his rebuttal witness, a clinical psychologist, to revisit the essential issues.
Did Mr. Gary Hilton, did he know right from wrong?
My opinion is that yes, he clearly knew right from wrong, and clearly he knew the criminal nature of his conduct. And my opinion is that he is a psychopath, and that's what generated the murders and nothing else.
The attorneys made their final appeal to the jurors.
I'm going to ask every one of you individually to go back in that jury room and vote to recommend that Gary Hilton be put to death.
On behalf of Mr. Hilton, I'm asking all of you collectively and individually, to recommend a life sentence in this case.
The jurors then retired to deliberate nothing less than whether Gary Hilton should live or die.
Coming up, another haunting question. Were there more victims out in the forest?
I personally believe there are.
And a legacy.
She's really the hero. It was through her efforts that we were able to catch her killer.
Remembering Meredith Hope Emerson.
He took our friend, he took a daughter, a sister, but he can't take her memory. He can't take the things that we love about her away.
When Mystery on Blood Mountain continues.